Hey, welcome to the Finding Joy podcast. Today, we're going to talk to someone who's gone through a major setback and a challenge in their life and has learned to find joy and purpose despite having a stroke. And today, I'd like you to welcome John Soisson. John, so good to have you on
Uh,
the show
Thanks
today.
for inviting me, Bill.
Absolutely. John, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and a little bit about your career?
Well, I'm a retired firefighter. Um, I was fire chief of the city of Norwalk until 2020, and my career was stopped short with a massive stroke in 2019.
2019.
Yes.
Okay, so were there any did you have any signs, like, leading up to the did you have any idea this was coming?
Well, I really never believed I'd had stroke wasn't even in my mindset that it could happen. You think about heart attacks. I never dreamed of a stroke, but I'd worked out. We get physicals every year at the fire department, and I knew I was in good health. And I quite honestly never even dreamed of having a stroke.
Wasn't on the radar.
No, ironically, my children, my oldest daughter's a speech pathologist, my son's a firefighter paramedic, and my stepdaughter is a doctor of physical therapy.
Okay.
So I used to joke with people that when I had a stroke, I'd be well cared for. I never dreamed that it would
That
actually
would
happen,
actually happen?
but I was well cared for.
So take us to that day when that happened, John. What happened?
Well, and Jeannie and I argue whether it was a Saturday Sunday combination. I can't remember. I got to look it up one of these times. But we had been at my son's house for Father's Day celebration. And it was a day that, you just thank the Lord because, you look around, you got this great family, the grandkids are running around, and you kind of pinch yourself because it was just so cool. Jeannie and I came home, went to bed, just like any
Another
other
normal
night,
day.
went to get up in the morning and had a terrible headache. And I suffered with headaches a lot from the stress, and I have a recliner that sits up in my bedroom that I'd get out and I could, if I would lay back in that,
Mm.
I would relax and go back to sleep. So I was trying to get in the recliner and ended up on the floor. I couldn't move.
Ooh.
And Jeannie realizing I think I was having a lot of facial droop. So she called 911. She knew I was having a stroke. And my first memory is I'm laying on the floor and I look up and there's because the fire department responded with that. So there was two of my captains and one of our lieutenants, like kind of my three really good friends from up there, Brett Beers, Rick Perry, and Kurt Stang. And I could tell by the looks on their face that something was really wrong,
Something's not good.
because it wasn't registering with me. But
Mm.
that was kind of my last memory until I got up to Cleveland. And what happened was is they took me out to Fisher Titus, and Fisher Titus did a CAT scan and realized that it was a serious event. And they transported me to Cleveland Metro Hospital,
Okay.
where I was in intensive care there for about 8 days, I believe, 8 or 9. And then I was transferred out of there to their inpatient rehab center, which was fantastic. And that was in they call it the Old Brooklyn Center. I was there until July 31st, and then I was released. And while I was there, I learned to walk again. I had to learn to swallow again because I was what they call NPO. I was not allowed to have any food or drink.
Oh,
Yeah, that was not settling well with me.
no.
They put a feeding tube in your nose, and I hated that.
I bet.
I remember I was tied up in intensive care because I kept trying to pull the tube out.
Oh, they had to restrain you?
Oh, yeah. And I would bargain with my son, evidently, every time he came in to untie me, which he wouldn't cooperate. But uh,
You just knew that thing was aggravating, you wanted it
oh, it
out.
was miserable. That, and I've never fantasized about having a drink of water. Like, I had it, you go about,
Mm.
a couple weeks without drinking anything. I'd be so thirsty. And when I was in rehab, the orderlies would come to take me down to the rehab
Yeah.
gym. And believing that I was a pretty good salesman yet, I would try to get them to stop at the drinking fountain every time on the way by. And not very successful, but it got to be bad enough, and I was getting a lot of visitors that my oldest daughter put a sign up in the room that says, no matter what he says, he's not allowed to drink or anything. So it's kind of like don't feed the
Don't
bears.
feed the bear.
Yeah, they're worried that I'd convince somebody to go get me a can of soda or something. But
Isn't that
and
something?
you learn to appreciate the small. To this day, we'll be sitting here at night, And if Jeannie makes popcorn, I'd love to get a big glass of Sprite because I could just drink it down. Because for so long, I couldn't, and that's all I would think about.
So just the things that we take for granted
Oh my goodness.
every day,
You know,
and when you come against that type of a obstacle, and now to have that perspective, like, I can't wait to, I'm so happy I get to have a drink. It's a
you know,
big deal.
and I have to go back to that because now that I'm 6 years out and I whine about a lot of little things that
Hmm.
don't work right, I have to go back to that and think about, boy, at least I can eat and drink now, and
Yeah, yeah. Like,
uh,
what is working? What is good? Yeah, no,
exactly. You
that's
got you got to
awesome.
take an inventory of it and appreciate the good stuff,
Yeah.
and
Well,
and, and that's a
yeah,
challenge, but.
gotcha. Was there any point in that ordeal that you thought you were gonna die?
I think I knew it was serious. Um, Ironically, Rick Perry was one of my best friends up to the fire department. And the story I get from my kids that when I came out of the fentanyl induced coma,
Mm,
in some probably pretty colorful language, I told my son, I said, "Boy, I bet Rick's just crapping himself thinking I'm going to die." But, other than that, I don't know as if I ever understood how bad it was.
I see.
In my mind, the whole time I was in rehab, I was going to get better, come back, and go back to work. Never dreamed that, it would have the life-changing effects that it actually did. And that's probably God's way of helping you through that.
Sure, sure. So you had hope from you've always had hope then.
Oh, yeah.
Always had hope. That's great. So you ended up in rehab. You had to learn to walk. You had to learn to swallow,
Mhm.
and that started this new path of life that you're on now.
Exactly.
And so how did you like how far have you progressed? Like today. So was it 6 years out?
Yeah.
7 years, 6 years out? Do you think you've progressed as far as you're going to, or are there things that are still getting better?
That's a great question because they say that it's usually the first 2 years where you make most, and I made a lot of progress going, at first. That's when I got my strength back and was able to walk. I remember the first few days in physical therapy that you have the parallel bars and they'd try to get me just to stand, and I felt like I'd worked out for 8 hours just trying to stand up, and then eventually I think there's a video of me floating around of the first time I walked. Finally I got strong enough that I could get the left leg to work.
Mm,
Now the only residual effects I have is if I get tired, that leg will drag a little bit. Um,
mm.
if I walk a lot, I have a lot of soreness from the weakness on that side.
Okay, so your left side has more is where most of
Right.
the issues are then?
What happened with my stroke, it was what they call a right MCA, the middle carotid artery, or I'm sorry, middle cerebral artery. There's two main arteries that go up to your brain, and
Yeah.
the right and left cerebral artery. And the clot lodged in my right middle cerebral. So the right side of my brain didn't get blood for, it's really an unknown period of time, but
Mm.
it was from 11 o'clock at night. They knew I was okay until I woke up.
Somewhere in there it happened and it's yeah, undetermined amount of time. Okay.
Well, in most cases of stroke, and that's why, they use um the acronyms. And, if you got facial droop or fast,
Okay,
facial
so facial
droop,
droop.
arm weakness, and if you have any of them, you want to get to the emergency room because they have drugs that are clot busters that can go up there and bust up the clots. But in my case, I wasn't appropriate for it because they can only have like a 4-hour window of knowing the clot hit that they can give
Ah,
that to you.
oh, I see.
So they weren't able to bust up the clot at all.
I see. So time is of the essence
Yeah,
when you have a stroke, and so the sooner you can get to the hospital, the
yeah,
better, right?
yeah. Time is brain, and people
Time is
got to
brain.
know that.
That's okay. Time is brain. Okay.
One of my passions now, I work with the Fisher Titus Hospital, and uh, a nurse there by the name of Karen Daniel, who runs their stroke. She's a fantastic lady, and we've gone and talked to Rotary and different civic clubs because everybody thinks of heart attacks a lot. Nobody thinks of brain attacks,
Yeah.
and the big difference is you recover from heart attacks. I always tell people there's no recovery from a stroke.
Mm,
You can't cure it. You can just prevent it. So, you want to look at the lifestyle changes: stress, blood pressure, cholesterol.
I see.
although my cholesterol's always been low, but
Okay, but those are the key
those are the key
key
things.
risk
Right,
factors.
right.
Yes. So, yeah, so that's interesting. So you're a fire chief,
Mhm.
and stress is a real talk about the stresses associated with being a fire chief.
Oh,
Like most of us have no clue.
oh, at that time, there's a lot of it, and, I do some speaking, to
Mm,
fire organizations. I think a lot of the stress that was there was my mishandling of the stress.
okay.
We built a new fire station, which was, kind of my pride and joy. But then anything that was against the fire department, I took personal. And, it really isn't personal. I just had a conversation with my boy not too long ago. He's a lieutenant in another fire department. And I said, the funny thing is looking back, everything that was really a big deal that I was losing sleep over seems so insignificant now.
Isn't that something?
And yet I was losing sleep over the stuff. And, and a lot of it is, the mental health in the fire service. We all think of PTSD, seeing those bad scenes, which
Mm-hmm.
I was always able to compartmentalize and can't say it ever really, got to me. But I do think some openness to mental health would have been good for me. My family knew I was stressed. You don't listen to your wife or your family. Um, for my birthday, Jeannie bought a couple yoga classes, thinking that yoga might chill me out a little bit. And it was in Huron, across from Main Street Tavern.
Oh, okay.
So I would go as long as we parked around the block and nobody could see me go in. And I just never dreamed that, you know, I would ever have a need for mental health or mental, counseling or anything.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
since the stroke, with a brain injury, depression, anxiety is brutal.
Mm.
So I go to counseling. I'm actually on antidepressants, and I'm diagnosed as clinically depressed and anxiety um, syndrome. And if you'd have told me that back in the day, I'd probably hit you right in the face.
Yeah. Right. You'd be laying on the floor.
Exactly. So hopefully, if I can help other, leaders learn that, if you broke your arm, you go to the doctor. So, if, the stress is eating you up a little bit, you need to go
That
talk to somebody.
that's really amazing. I So Sherry ended up with cancer 6
Hmm.
months after we took in 6
Yeah, I
kids.
remember that.
And I'm not a doctor, and I but my theory is because of the stress, her immune system came down to a point that cancer was able to start growing. And we caught it quick, and now we're getting
Hmm.
ready to celebrate 25 years cancer free. But this idea of stress can really wreck your life is hitting home right now with me.
Oh, it does. And, I can't honestly say that stress caused my stroke. There's no clinical evidence of that.
Same here.
But I had low cholesterol. I worked out. I did all the things that I thought were right. I got physicals every year.
Yes.
Um, but was sitting here just about a year after I had a stroke, and I was watching on TV, and they were talking about a fire chief up in one of the Cleveland suburbs who was talking to other fire chiefs on counseling and, getting help.
Yes.
And he'd had PTSD from some other types of things.
Mhm.
And I knew the guy well enough that I called him and said, "Hey, what was going on?" And he goes, "Man, I'd get these headaches and migraines every day."
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I had.
Right.
I'd go to the station, I'd take 3 extra strength Advil, 1 Excedrin migraine pill, and 1 prescription migraine pill.
Oh my
And
goodness.
most days I didn't leave with them. Well, that's why I started drinking the half calves at Sherry's, because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was getting headaches so bad. And I'd had that problem another time when I would get the headaches, they would have aura to them, where you start losing your vision. And
Yes. Yeah, like the migraine, right?
right.
Yeah.
Well, there's a correlation. The thing that really was the big factor in my stroke was I had a hole in my heart called a patent foramen ovale, which 1 out of 4 people have. When you're born, the blood flows from your right atria to your left atria, and it's oxygenated coming through the placenta, so it doesn't need to go through the pulmonary arteries. And that hole is supposed to close up within the first 2 or 3 months of life, I guess.
Okay.
1 out of 4 American or people, it doesn't close.
Mm.
What that did is that allowed a clot to come through my body and go straight to my brain.
Ooh.
So in November, my stroke was in June. In November, the Cleveland Clinic went in and closed that hole, which was great. However, in October, I had a second stroke, which really bothers me because I'm on blood thinners and everything to prevent them.
Yes.
And it was a minor stroke, but I did end up as a was October 25th of this of
Same
the
year.
same year that I had another small stroke.
Does that cause you like a PTSD about like when's the next one coming kind of thing?
There is the PTSD is from the fact that everything in my life now is before stroke and after stroke.
Okay.
That's the delineate or the line.
Yes, the line of demarcation. Yes,
Yeah.
sure.
And so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, because we're, I think that as a couple, Sherry and I are much more sensitive to the possibility of cancer now that we've had that experience in our life. It's
mhm,
like, oh, that mark on our hand or that,
yeah,
that feeling in my stomach or,
yeah, I agree.
it makes you more sensitive to it for sure.
Well, my father died of cancer. My brother had lymphoma in his early 50s
Mm,
and beat it. I
pra-
always figured, especially
praise
being a
God.
firefighter, that cancer was what I was going to have.
Okay.
And like I say, so this was totally off the radar. Never dreamed.
That is really something.
Yeah, it is.
Wow. Now, talk to me a little bit about how faith has played a role in all of this, John.
Well, it's been huge, and I've been fortunate. I was raised Roman Catholic, went to
Hmm.
St. Paul,
Yeah,
and I realize now what a great foundation that laid in my life.
sure.
But the Lord works in funny, funny ways.
For sure.
When I was chief, I got a call from Dave Wallace one time. You know
I know
Dave.
Dave, for
Well,
sure.
Wally had worked with us at the fire department. He was a councilman at the time,
Mm.
and in my political thinking, I'm thinking, well, he calls. He said, "Hey, we have a small group at the First Presbyterian Church. It's kind of like a Bible study. We read groups and talk about it as like Christian men." And he said, "Why don't you come?" I thought, yeah, it'd be great because I can politic Wally to get the votes that I want at city council.
There you go.
So I went and I go to this day, and this was several years before my
Hmm.
stroke, and turned into be a great group of friends and a great support group during
So good.
that ugly time.
Hmm.
And they were regular showing up at the hospital for me, and to this day, although I missed the meeting this morning, I go every Wednesday morning.
Okay.
Um, Greg Graves, who's in our group, is a good friend. Greg picks me up at 10 minutes to 7 every Wednesday morning. And that's just the type of friendship I've gotten out of that group. And
That's so important to have a group of friends, to have a circle, you know.
well, we live in a great town. And when I spoke at the National Day of Prayer, I tried to elaborate, the circles that you have that come to help you in these times.
Mm,
When I came home from the hospital, there's a group of friends that I'd had that brought a meal over every day.
isn't that great?
It really is. The people that came up to the hospital, when I got home from the hospital, the day I came home, the whole fire department was here, and all the guys were waiting for me in my driveway. And that's special.
That is special.
The people that came and saw me up to the hospital and encouraged me. Kevin Cashin, good friend of mine, and Kevin came up a lot.
Yeah.
Kevin brokered me the good news that you got to retire. I was not happy about that, but he
I'm
was right.
sure. I'm sure. No. No, and it's so important to have that group established and so that when something happens because life is going to throw us curveballs. There are going to be setbacks, there are going to be storms that we go through, and I think about the same thing when Sherry when we went through cancer. We were already established in a church. We had a small group and a circle of friends, and they did much the same thing. They brought us food, they supported us emotionally and helped us with the kids, um, and so I just think that's such a great thing that we should I just everyone that I talk to, and I'm so pleased that it's part of your story. I'm like, get don't try to do this on your own.
Mhm.
I think guys struggle with that a lot, thinking that they're self-sufficient, that they can handle it, they can just do it on their own. But man, it's important to have a group of friends.
Well, I'm a huge advocate of stroke support groups because it brings people in and understands that the problems you have, somebody else has. And when I was a fire chief, there was a group of us chiefs, myself, the chief of Tiffin, Fostoria, Fremont, and
Mm,
Bowling Green would meet for lunch. Just for that same thing, you're not the only ones with the same problems, and that support helped.
yes,
I think about your place, I'd go to work at 10 minutes to 8, I'd always be into Sherry's.
for sure.
And the support I got from our little table there,
Hmm.
Mr. Russell, I can't think of his first
Oh
name.
yeah, Dave.
Dave Russell.
Oh yeah, we called him the Chick Magnet Club or something
Yeah.
like. I can't remember what.
You had Father Frank Spear,
Yes,
your father-in-law.
Dick. Yeah,
I think I probably got more good advice on building a new fire station there than I did anywhere else.
isn't that something?
Yeah, and it's why I miss those guys.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. I miss seeing that group of guys getting together, chuckling it up, just solving all the world's
Boy,
problems
we had
around a
fun.
coffee
Yeah,
table.
it was definitely a unique group.
Yeah, for sure.
But to your point, I think, and one of the things, I'm a huge C.S. Lewis fan, and
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know,
So am I.
and C.S. Lewis says that the good Lord whispers to you in good times and screams in adversity, and I think that was
Mm,
true for me. And, when you hit bottom, you have nothing but your faith to lean on, and after everything, you wake up and you see the blue sky and all these beautiful trees you see
it
out
is
back there.
beautiful. This is
You
yeah.
realize, boy, I got to see that again.
Yes, for
Yeah,
sure.
that's wonderful.
So, what are the things right now, John, that are most important in your life?
Oh, my family. The one thing that I thank God for every day is my father died at 66. He saw my grandkids and he was real close to my kids. Never saw him play football in high school, never saw him play volleyball or anything. And I get to go. I've got four grandchildren. Two are 11 and I think a 7 and 8 or two, so I'm not sure, but
Okay. So you
they're
said four grandchildren?
yeah, they're a
Yeah.
blast.
Oh, I love, yeah, being a grandparent's amazing. Raising kids is, ooh, there's a lot of responsibility there.
Well, I like to think that, you know, um, we have a common enemy, my kids.
No.
My youngest grandson, he is really a chip off the old block, and
Oh, wow.
I like to call him Karma sometimes.
Oh, no.
Yeah, his older brother is just a great kid. Loves studies, very sensitive, very cerebral kid. And
Uh,
Luke's a very intelligent boy, but Luke
mhm.
is Soisson, and he's head first into everything.
Come on.
And
He's ready to roll.
yep,
So family. I love, yeah,
yeah,
that's,
that's everything for me. And so Papa has a lot of fun.
is everybody local pretty much, John?
Um, my daughter Lindsay, she's the executive director up the Artist Open Studio, which I'm just proud as a peacock of the fact that, you know, she's into Norwalk so much
Yeah.
and building Norwalk and what Artist Open Studio does, with adults with disabilities and the art that they can do is fantastic. And she's extremely passionate about it. My son Daniel is a lieutenant for the Huron Fire Department. He's a firefighter paramedic and does a good job. And he's a great dad, which probably, a lot better than his dad was. He takes the boys hunting all the time,
Oh, wow.
real involved. And boy, there's a lot worse things they could be doing.
For sure.
Yeah, my grandson, he's already shot. I think he's got 4 deer. Or the last 3 years, he's gotten a deer.
Okay.
And
Is he? Are they mounting any of those, or
oh yeah,
just
yeah,
they got some deer heads on the wall?
yeah. The first year, Carter shot a nice buck with a nice rack, and
Oh, okay.
and my son says, I got to explain to him that don't happen every year.
Right.
And last year, he shot a doe, and my
Hmm.
son's got a barn where they hang the deer.
Yes.
And Carter actually deboned his own deer and did
No
it.
way.
Yep.
Good for them.
Yep. He's very into it.
Are they? Do they do archery? Are they bow hunters or
Yeah.
gun
Yeah.
hunters or
Right
both?
now they're bow hunting.
Bow hunters. That's the way I grew up. Yeah. If we didn't eat venison, we didn't eat. Like that's what we ate growing up. I mean, we ate a
Well, I
lot
don't
deer
think
meat.
my son has bought ground beef in years. I mean, his
Yeah. No.
freezer's full of it. And
It's wild. When I went to the Air Force Academy and did my physical, it was the lowest recorded cholesterol ever on base.
there you go.
And they said it was so low, they marked it as abnormal. They said, "What did you eat growing up?" I said, "A lot of venison."
Yep.
Lot of venison. Yeah. Uh, so Your family sounds like your family is a major source of your joy. God's a big source of your joy. What are some of the things that are joy robbers in your life, John,
Well, my
that
biggest
come
thing
try
that
to
takes
take your
it
joy?
is through this, I can't drive. The
Mm.
right side of my brain is so severely damaged, and it's funny. I don't want to say it's all because of the stroke. My lovely bride tells me that everything that I had wrong before, just like I always had ADD. I've always been a type
Oh,
A
yeah, oh, yeah,
personality.
yeah, yeah. If a squirrel goes
Yep.
by right now, look, it's over.
Well, I
Something.
can't focus, and I've got what they call left neglect. So from like 9 o'clock to noon, I struggle seeing. And if I'm thinking about one thing, another thing just goes by, which I should probably use this podcast. Yesterday, I was riding a bike on the trail and I come up to Northwest Street and I'm always look left, look right. I looked left and I rode right out in front of somebody coming the other way. I hope Jeannie
Uh,
don't watch this.
yeah.
But and you think, you dummy, but what happens is I get thinking of one thing and everything else just absolutely shuts down. And
Oh,
I'd be
wow.
like a guy texting all the time if I was trying to drive. And so I ride
Yes.
my bike a lot. That's a big thing. I've got
Okay.
16 more miles to get in sometime, and I'll have 2,600 for the year.
Tw
Yeah.
That's like, oh, what's that? Here to Salt Lake City, basically? Yeah, maybe Los
Yeah.
Angeles.
I ride the trail a lot. I love the trail. It's just
Oh,
such a beautiful thing.
rails to trails?
I usually ride over to Bellevue and back.
Oh, I love the bridge just when you come to Monroeville,
Yeah.
you jog to the other side of the tracks there, and then there's that bridge,
Yeah.
and that is a wonderful spot, especially this time of year where it's fall.
It's just to watch the whole year go by from that trail.
Mm,
And I mow for them. Sometimes I volunteer and mow for them, which is nice to get out.
that is.
Then I mow once a week at St. Paul's, and it gives me a chance to do something, feel like I have some sort of value left in this life. Um, I golf on Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Okay. And that's out of Eagle Creek.
Yeah, and the ironic thing is, I'm a better golfer now than I was before my
Stop it.
stroke, and I was bad
Stop
before,
it.
just to qualify that.
Do you think it's just because you're golfing more?
Yeah, I
You
golf
golf
more
a
and I got
lot?
time to work on it. The problem I have is I have no feeling in this hand. Like I can't throw a ball. And that bothers me the word I can't throw a ball. I played ball my whole life and I can't play catch with the
Oh.
grandkids because if they throw the ball over here, I can't see it. And
Oh, right.
had you told me that losing your feeling on the hand would screw it up as bad as it did, I wouldn't have believed you.
So it's like numb,
Yeah,
as in like if you were pinched, you would really
yeah.
don't feel pain,
You know
or
when you hit your funny bone and you get that weird
it
thing?
just
That's how
stays.
it
It
feels
just
all the time.
stays.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. That
Yeah,
is
so I can't.
that.
I'm left-handed. I can't write. I still can't control my hand well enough to write legibly. And as you can tell, messaging me, I can't type.
You did fine. You did absolutely
Uh,
fine. And you're doing as far as like maintaining a conversation and tracking through that. You're doing better than me. You're doing great.
well, the thing with stroke is, a lot of people, if they have a left side stroke, they have aphasia where they can't find words and they can't speak, which is really awful.
Mm,
Um,
yes,
my stroke group out of California has a young lady in it, and she was entrepreneur in Silicon Valley, very successful.
I see.
And there's actually some tapes of her teaching and selling her product that I've seen, and very articulate. And poor gal, she'll struggle sometimes just to
Mm.
tell you that her kids are gone to college, just finding those words. So it could have been a lot worse for me. Although I think the general public probably would have wished I'd had the aphasia
Ah,
and I'd
no.
finally
Oh,
shut
no,
up.
no. No, I think that, we talked about the little bit, even when setting up and just talking about in general about a podcast. What we need more in this world are just authentic face-to-face conversations, people telling their story, people telling stories, whether whether it's a real story, it's amazing. Some people are just good storytellers. They like to share
Well, we
funny
miss that in
things.
this day and age,
We do,
the
yes.
knowledge of the older people.
Mhm.
And one of the things that has really tickled me, um, and God bless me as I went through my work career. I started out working for a produce company in town and a family owned business. And boy, you learn to work hard. The family was great to work for. My brother worked for him. I worked for him. And,
That's fun.
in produce, you learned marketing real well because, if you didn't sell it, it rotted. And
Oh, yeah.
so when I left there and got into real estate, those same fundamentals helped me be successful in real estate. And
Sure.
I was fortunate. I started with Mike Myers Realty in 1983, and Mike Myers was a great leader for us, and he taught me a lot of things from
Good.
how to invest money, how to deal with people, and how to be positive.
Nice.
We used to go once a year to a success seminar. You'd have the likes of Og Mandino, Zig Ziglar, those type of people are
Yes.
speakers, and
Motivational speakers for sure.
and so I'm real involved in the stroke group at Fisher Titus, and unfortunately, Mike also had a stroke
Mm.
similar to mine, and I've read a lot of stroke books trying to get a handle on it, and
Yeah.
so I brought one in and gave it to him, and Mike said, "Here's a book that Zig Ziglar wrote right before he died." Zig had had a fall and ended up with a brain injury, so it was
Really?
interesting seeing that, and when I look at that path of employment, when I went to the fire department, the stuff I learned from Mike and Gordon Schechterly was the stuff that helped me be successful as a leader in the fire service. Talking about customer service and how to treat people and how to deal with people. Stuff I took for granted. And
Yeah. It's amazing to me the way God orchestrates, the things that we're going to need for the things that he's called us to. He equips us to get,
oh,
to do the things that he's called
100%.
us to. And that's a great story.
I was booster president at St. Paul's in my early 20s, and Jim Trott was the booster president at Norwalk High, and Jim come to me with the idea of building a new field house down to the football field. And I look back, and we got a committee together, and there was guys like Jim Wozniak, Don Wheeler, some people that all helped build this, and then they built the convocation center at St. Paul's. And when I got done with the fire station, I'm looking at some of the resources I was able to pull and some of the things we were able to do. I
Hmm.
realized that I learned from those guys. When they were going to build a convocation center for $1 million, I thought, no way. But I'm telling you, there was no way to tell Jim Wozniak and Don Wheeler, no way they were building it,
Yeah. No.
and I
Yeah.
kind of took that same bulldog method with building the fire station.
Yes. Yeah.
And I realize now how much I learned from them and didn't know that I learned from them, which is,
That's
interesting how the good
fun.
Lord
That's
works.
fun. Yeah. Remember when $1 million was a lot?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Things have changed.
They sure have.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The average sale price of a house in Norwalk when I started selling was $36,000. And I can remember somebody sold a house out in Sycamore Hills for 100. And everybody talked, boy, that'll never happen in
That'll never
Norwalk
happen in
again.
Norwalk. Oh, isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? John, how old are you
I
now?
just turned 64.
64. All right. And I'm 56. I'm chasing right behind you, but what advice would you give to young people, having lived, all these adventures and knowing what you know now, what do you say to young people if you were speaking to, like, maybe in a high school, what would you say to
Yeah,
them?
don't take anything for granted. People told me to stop and smell the roses my whole life, but I, had to chase success, and that was such a focus of mine.
Mm,
And I look back, the roses had been taken away. It's like driving. I took that for granted, and I don't believe I'll ever drive again.
yeah,
Just little things that you don't think about. So, take your time, and one of the things that I make sure I do every day now, I always prayed at night. But when I wake up in the morning, I always thank God for the fact that I woke up, got out of bed, and I'm standing up. The little things that, you know, you don't, you take for granted, or I did back then, but
yes,
don't.
yes.
And, because you're
No,
going to get old.
that's sure. Yeah, so of course we were talking a little bit about Dick at the table and Sherry's dad, and watching him go through the different stages and progressions of lung cancer, and that was a guy that loved to eat, and it didn't matter what it could,
Hmm.
one day it was lobster, the next
Hmm.
day it was pastries, the next day he just loved to eat, but to see him get to a place where he was struggling to swallow,
Hmm.
where eventually he just didn't even want to eat. It's like, man, we take that for granted. It's like, oh, I'm going to wake up and I'm just going to figure out whatever I want to eat, and I'm just going to eat whatever I want to eat, and but having seen that and gone through that, now I do think about it a little bit more. It's like, yeah, don't take that for granted. The fact that you can swallow. Some
Mhm.
people are having a hard time swallowing. Some people are having a hard time breathing. Some people can't see. And to sort of flip that flow, I have a video I'm going to be making soon. And it's the flip the flow because people will say
Right.
of course, but usually it's in a negative connotation, right? They go out, their tires flat, they're like, of course. Well, how about of course both of my hands are working today,
That's
or
right.
of course both my feet are working today, or of course it's beautiful out. I mean, there's so many things you could look around and say, of course I've got food in the refrigerator,
Mhm.
of course I still have a job today. Yeah, that's a mental muscle that the whole that attitude of gratitude, that is a mental muscle I think that we have to work on for sure.
And you've got to feed it because, we're living in a world where they feed us negative stuff
Oh,
with a big shovel. So if you don't
yes.
take some of that positive, um, I think a good example I got is I worked with Gloria Gentry for years from National City, and her son Tyson
Yeah.
is a very inspiring young man, and he's a motivational speaker. And I seen Gloria and Bob at a wedding. I said, "Boy, I'd love to talk to Tyson sometime. Just thought if he's ever in town, it'd be cool to have coffee with him." And a couple weeks later, I got a phone call from this young man. And for those that don't know, he was playing football at Ohio State, and he had during a spring practice, he got tackled and ended up being paralyzed. It wasn't even a hard hit. I mean, it was just kind of a circumstantial thing. And
Ooh,
this young man is the um, epitome of Acts or Romans 8:28.
okay.
And he feels that God has brought him to be there. He actually wrote a book, The Christian Athlete, which I'd recommend for anybody.
The Christian athlete.
Yeah, and he's on YouTube, and he has a foundation that helps families of people with spinal cord injuries, and just an amazing young
Ooh.
man. And
I
uh,
love hearing stories. Was he paralyzed from the waist down
yeah,
type
he's
of
in a
thing?
wheelchair. Yeah,
Ah,
and what he's when I complain that I can't drive, and I think about Tyson, but yet I'm out riding my bike. It's like, shut up, John.
yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we can find somebody, we can always compare ourselves up or down. And so when we compare up, we start feeling
Yeah,
bad
I
for
like
us.
that seminar.
Yeah.
I was good friends with Jeff Smiley, and Smiles.
Yeah.
And when I had my stroke, Smiles was going through his tough time with myasthenia gravis, so we talked a lot,
Mm,
and I think it humbled us both, and we're probably both guys that needed to be humbled.
that's something, one of the, it was kind of interesting as we were speaking, we were talking about having these conversations, the idea of being around other men, being around other people, and the idea of iron sharpening iron.
Hmm.
That's a proverb that comes from the Bible. But one of the things that I just that kind of was a revelation, even as I was thinking about it, is it talks about iron sharpening iron in the capacity of it's two things that are very similar, right?
Hmm.
And so it's that idea of a like-minded or going somebody struggling with the same thing, and having those conversations, with somebody that's either going through it or that is like-minded. I think it really does help us.
I think that's needed, and for me, I was very blessed to have the jobs that I had and be able to help people,
Mm.
and the ability to give back and do a little of that just is great for me, and that's why I love this podcast and what you're doing with it.
Oh yeah, you're gonna bless a lot of people with this story for sure, John. No, that is super, super, super true. Um, let's see. We've covered pretty much everything that I can think of, John. As far is there anything else from your story that you think would be helpful for people to know, um,
Well,
that I haven't asked you about?
I think it's important. There's a lot of people in your life, when I think about going to the hospital and the therapist I had and the people, you know, there needs, you got to have a lot. There's people out there whose job they don't think of it, but that really make a big difference in your life.
Mm.
And it has a lot to do with the attitude they bring to it.
Yes,
And for me, I was always on the other side of the bed. I was never on that side of the bed. To have a little empathy is a great thing.
that's good. That's really good. Well, John, we'll wrap this up with a prayer,
Okay.
and then we'll go on to the next things. I know
Very
you're
good.
golfing. I got to get you out to the golf course. All
Yeah.
right, let's
All
pray.
right.
Lord, thank you for today. I just thank you for John. I thank you, Lord, for his story, and I thank you, Lord, for the way that you're using John, even right now in this podcast, to bless others. And Lord, I just pray that blessing over his family. Pray, Lord, just healing upon his body. And Lord, just watch over his entire family and bless them, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks a lot,
Thanks,
brother.
Billy. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Good times.